Welcome to On the Other Hand, and welcome to the newest subscribers. I'm not just saying that, I mean it. I appreciate you watching. This is the first video in a series I'm starting called Divisive Definitions, a series where we take a look at political terms that are vague or deceptive and decide what part is valid and what part is baggage. This video will be covering the term common sense gun laws.
Common sense measures.
Common sense measures.
Hashtag common sense.
I like to believe I have a shred of common sense.
Common sense.
Common sense. Common sense.
That clip came courtesy of Steven Crowder. Similar on how I did a video on the term people of color, here's a list of terms that fall under the umbrella of common sense gun laws, as far as I can tell. So let's go through each of these. Note that this video will be more on the informative side rather than the entertaining side, but that's to prove a point. First, my bias. I'm a conservative who cares about people's safety and people's rights to bear arms, and I believe rights laid out in the Constitution are pretty important. They can be restricted, but shouldn't be restricted lightly. Also, I'm not an expert, so I'll probably get something wrong. Sorry in advance. And please let me know if I did miss something in the comments below. I always love to learn. Banning assault weapons or assault rifles. This is the part I hear most about, so I'm going to spend the most time here. Clarification on terms. Automatic guns means that you can press and hold the trigger, and bullets will continue to fire. Semi-automatic means that one bullet comes out per trigger pull. And guns that are not semi-automatic require other actions between bullets, like a bolt-action rifle. Almost all guns, rifles and handguns nowadays, are semi-automatic. Nuance Bro did a great video that included what the assault weapons ban of 1994 entailed, and it goes as follows.
So as you can see here, the 1994 assault weapons ban outlawed any 2 of 5 characteristics on semi-automatic rifles with detachable magazines. And as you can see, those 5 features included collapsible stocks, pistol grips, bayonet lugs, flash suppressors, and a stepped barrel, which could allow for what they believe was like grenade launchers to attach and things like that. Now take a look at these 2 firearms. They're both AR-15s, but under the 1994 assault weapons ban, the top one is illegal, but the bottom one is legal. As you can see, the bottom one does not have a collapsible stock, it doesn't have the stepped barrel, it doesn't have a bayonet lug, but it still has a pistol grip, and it still has the same size magazine as the one above, and they both shoot at the same rate of fire. The features that they banned don't really do anything to increase how lethal the firearm is.
That ban has greatly influenced modern usage of the term assault weapons, and the things banned don't change how lethal the rifles are for the most part. I'd highly recommend the whole video, link is in the description below. That Crowder clip from earlier and this next one come from a video where he is impersonating gun control activists, and here's a highlight of what people thought should be banned.
What would be fine versus what the government needs to step in and ban?
Well, maybe like the hunting ones are pretty normal, right?
Okay,
like
so
those,
yeah.
Like no, those look like
So you'd
somebody need to own that.
Right. Does anything pop out at you?
Probably the 2 on the right.
Those you'd say like people don't need that?
Those down there. Yeah, I was gonna say
The
not
the scary black ones?
And anything. Yeah.
That video was hard to find. Must be rough to be shadow banned. Anyway, what I get out of this is that people think scary looking guns are more dangerous, which makes people gun racists? Anyway, when I hear the term assault style weapon, my brain usually substitutes it for scary looking rifle, because the vagueness of the term doesn't actually convey anything specific or meaningful. Bump stocks are common attachments you hear about often too. Bump stocks use recoil to allow semi-automatic weapons to fire very fast. It doesn't turn a semi-automatic into an automatic gun, but it does greatly increase the potential fire rate with minimal effort. Gun-free zones. This is pretty self-explanatory. On the one hand, it means that in theory there will be no gun violence in that area because no one can enter with a gun. On the other hand, it means that there are no good guys with a gun present if someone bad with a gun shows up. So, take that for what you will. Gun licenses and registration. I hear this often compared with, if you need a license to drive, you should need a license to use a gun, but driving isn't a right. Registration allows for government to have a database with all guns and gun owners in it. On the one hand, this should keep track of guns and keep them from getting into the wrong hands. On the other hand, an authoritarian leader or government cannot disarm a population without first having such a list, so not having a list is a failsafe against tyranny. When it comes to limiting gun purchases, some plans propose things like limiting 1 gun purchase per month, others propose multiple week waiting period between the purchase and the pickup to prevent rash decisions and bad choices. The downside is that people in need of self-defense can't get it in a timely fashion, like someone who needs self-defense today, not in several weeks. Magazine and clip size is often mentioned as well. In theory, limiting these means less bullets can be shot before needing to reload and could make dangerous people less dangerous. The flip side to this is that I've never heard of this making a difference to someone intent on harming others. Universal background checks, or the gun show loophole. So federal background checks are required by all firearm stores before purchasing a firearm. But if you're selling to a relative, you don't need to run the check. The gun show loophole, from my understanding, is when private sellers are at a gun show. They don't need to run a check. The pushback I've heard to this loophole is that everyone, including private sellers, still have to follow many other laws, like how you can't sell firearms to someone from a different state. So this loophole seems possible, but from what I understand, it doesn't really happen unless other sketchy things are also happening. So just because you call something common sense doesn't make it so. I feel like if all these things were common sense, it would not be nearly as controversial, or take a long video to only scratch the surface. People have valid concerns on both sides, but in my experience, those who know and use firearms tend to have a better grasp on these concepts than the general public, and they do not consider these to be common sense solutions to gun violence. As always, thanks. Hope you enjoyed.